It's Sunday night, so I'm going to make another Letters from America about my experience as a Brit living in America. And today I just want to talk about one simple thing: why I absolutely love the United States. Stay tuned. Hi guys, it's me, and I've been really trying to drum up the cadence of making videos about Letters from America because I think it's kind of an interesting thing for a British guy to talk about what it's like to actually live in America. I think a lot of people who don't live in America don't really understand what America is like. America is bonkers. It's wonderful, it's completely wonderful, but it's bonkers. There is so much stuff that goes on in America that if you only understood America through what the American government does in the news and from what you get exposed to on like TV and in the cinema and stuff, you don't get it. You don't get it. You are missing so much stuff out. America is so much more than that. And that's one of the reasons I love it. And that's what I wanted to make this video about. This is kind of like my first real Letters from America thing. I love America. I absolutely adore America. I'll tell you what, I moved here 21, 22 years ago. For the first time, I moved to America in November 2001. Um, and I remember the moment that I landed at the airport and got picked up by this wonderful man who gave me the opportunity to come to America. Seeing all the cars in the parking lot at John F. Kennedy Airport, and they're all twice the size of cars in Britain. It's crazy. And I was just walking through, and even from then, when I was in the parking lot, I was like, I'm home. I'm home. And that is a feeling that just grew from everything I discovered about America. Oh, those first few days, it was just so exciting for me to come to this new place uh, and just make a brand new life for myself completely independently. And I think really when it hit home was the first time I ever went to New York City. And I went to New York City via the LIRR, that's the Long Island Railroad, because when I first started off living in America, I lived on Long Island. And that takes you to Penn Station, which is an underground station. Um, and you have to take an escalator up to like 6th Avenue. And I remember appearing at the top of the escalator, sorry, and walking out onto the sidewalk on 6th Avenue and just looking around and being like, the skyscrapers towering overhead, the yellow cabs zooming by, going honk, honk, honk. You take a deep breath. It was November, so you take a deep breath and you smell roast nuts chesting in these little sidewalk carts and hot dogs prepared on these sidewalk cars. People are talking and yelling, and I don't know. I have been to a great many cities in my time, and I've lived in wonderful places like Paris, and of course I'm so familiar with London being British, but there was, there was, and has been, and never will be anywhere quite like New York City. And to me, New York City is the real heart of America. A lot of people say New York is like an island halfway between Europe and America, and it doesn't represent America. It's a very, I don't know, it's a very cosmopolitan city compared to a lot of America, which is like rural. But to me, New York represents the promise of America. And I think that's what I love about America and why I've wanted to come here my whole life. As a kid, I think I was like 7 or 8 when I got super into cowboys for some reason. Just seeing, do I have the book? Oh, I have this wonderful leather-bound book. Yeah, I was super into cowboys. I grew grew up on a farm in England, but it was kind of like a hobby farm, and we had a lot of horses, and I used to ride horses, and of course, being a boy, doing the whole English dressage thing, and having to have your knees in this, your feet in the stirrups and your knees up, the English style, with both hands. It's very formal. It's like eating with a knife and fork in both hands, and I loved riding horses, but something appealed to me about being less constrained. And my mother, being very indulgent and understanding that, she introduced me to Western riding. I even had a Western saddle. And I don't know if you don't know anything about horses, you might not know this, but there's an English style of riding and there's an American style of riding called the Western style. And the Western style comes from the basically cowboy culture. And so you ride these big, big saddles that have a horn in the front, and your legs like dangle down by the sides. Whereas in English style of riding, you have your feet in these little stirrups and your knees are bent, and you're using both hands on the reins. Where in American style, the Western style, you ride with one hand, and it's just it was. There's nothing quite like riding a horse with just the sheer unencumbered freedom of Western style, holding the reins with one hand, your legs dangling there. And it got me interested in like cowboy culture because I was always interested in history and stuff. So I looked it up and I just fell in love with America because of cowboy culture, like the history of the Western frontier. Like there was something that appealed to me about the whole idea of the West. The West was this great big undiscovered wilderness in the 1800s, and people who just wanted to start a new life on their own terms would go out west, and they would start with nothing and build their empires, and that really appealed to me. And of course, I started watching westerns, and of course, the cool gunfights and the riding and stuff that really appealed to me as well. My particular favorite westerns, if you're interested, I would say are A Fistful of Dollars, Clint Eastwood, one of the classic spaghetti westerns, Silverado. Oh, that was an 80s movie, one of the best westerns ever, I think. And Young Guns with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. That was great, great. Love that movie. Anyway, yeah. So I became obsessed with cowboys, and I had these wonderful leather-bound books my mother got me about like the cavalry and the guns fighters. And so I would even like memorize dates of things. When Wild Bill Hickok got shot in 1876. I don't know. It just seemed like a wild and crazy free for all out there. And as a young man growing up in the constraints of like upper middle class Britain, where you came from a certain class and you were expected to do things within the constraints of that class, and I don't know, the idea of just going to another country and being who you wanted to be, unencumbered by like social pressures and things like that, really, really appealed to me. And so, yeah, since that early age, I just wanted to move to America. And to me, what's amazing is, as soon as I arrived in America, I found that wherever I went, there were people I could make an instant connection with because they were also immigrants to America. Because America is a country founded by immigrants. It's been flooded by immigrants. It is the great melting pot. There are people from every single place in the world who come here. But as somebody who's had the opportunity to come to America and live here, having lived somewhere else, when you meet another immigrant, whether it's like the guy from Mumbai who runs the corner store, or the guy from Mumbai who's like CEO of this huge tech company, or your Mexican landscaper, or I don't know, um, a a guy who had started in Mexico who now runs a huge trucking company. Um, an Irish person you meet in New York City who's been like living off the books without a green card for 7 years in a pub somewhere. We meet Irish constructors who live in this community here. There are just people from all over the world who come to America. And the people who are immigrants to America, like me, who've lived somewhere else, we immediately have a connection because we understand America in a way that Americans don't. And one thing I often say is like America is almost wasted on Americans. If you're an American who's like third generation born and brought up here, I don't think you understand how amazing America is and what promise it delivers. Because there's no person in America who's an immigrant who came here by accident. I mean, we all came here following a dream. It doesn't matter whether you are from Mumbai or London or Australia or Ghana or Mexico City or wherever. We all came to America because America represented something to us, and it is the thought that if we just can start somewhere with a clean slate, we can become so much more successful than we would have been back home. You know, if we can start with a clean slate, we aren't asking for a handout. We just want to come to America and use what's in our heads and, you know, the strength of our shoulders to make a life for ourselves. And it's like, for some reason, America is the only place where you really feel like that's what the American spirit is. The American spirit is, yeah. It doesn't matter where you start from. You can be anything. And look at all the stories that define America, and you might... Scarface for me. I've always loved Scarface because it's the story of a guy who comes to America and he has the opportunity to forget his past and start from the bottom and become someone new, you know, running a huge empire. And of course, Scarface is a movie with a sad ending because Tony Montana is a victim of his own hubris. But to me, the whole idea of coming to America with everything that you were abandoned, starting with a blank slate, and being able to build a life for yourself, that's just the dream. And I think every immigrant to America understands that dream. And I don't think many Americans do. But America is a land with intrinsic freedoms that we do not have in other places. In Britain, for example, you know, some basic American rights like the freedom of religion. You know, in Britain, I think we think of ourselves as very tolerant of other religions and stuff. But listen, we have the Church of England. It is our state religion. And we have religious institutions that are part of what runs the country. Another thing in America, freedom of the press. Oh, we don't have freedom of the press, like defined as one of our essential God-given inalienable rights, like you do in America. So that means in Great Britain, you have these stupid things where a celebrity gets in trouble and he can file a super injunction. So none of the newspapers are allowed to talk about that celebrity or what he may or may not have done, because if they do, they'll get sued. I mean, it's ridiculously corrupt. Then there are ridiculous things like, you know, during King Charles III's coronation, there were a bunch of people who, there are some people who want a republic in England. So they're like holding up signs saying, "Not my king," and "I didn't vote for him." And they were getting arrested. I mean, oh my God. Just think of that. This in America, you have the right to say whatever you want to say, and you have the right to protest peacefully as like baked in inalienable rights. And I mean, right now you're fighting for your lives with both of those, by the way, America. I mean, this situation that's going on in Israel and Gaza is really showing where certain institutions on one side or another are leveraging their ability to silence dissent and silence free voices and silence free opinion and silence the right to protest. So, yeah. Thomas Jefferson said that the tree of liberty must be watered often with the blood of tyrants. And that's the thing. America, for all its flaws, had this Bill of Rights, these 10 rules, these 10 rights that were inalienable, given by your creator. And it seems like ever since the Bill of Rights was ratified, there have been people on both sides trying to tear it apart. Unfortunately, America, for the most part, has always stayed strong and maintained these freedoms. And you can see right now in France, in England, in other countries, you can see how the rights that we Americans take for granted do not exist in those countries. And Americans don't appreciate that, I don't think. I really think Americans take for granted the fact that no, there is a baseline wired into everything about your nation that gives you rights that I honestly don't think exist in such a codified way in any other nation in the world. America is like, still 200 years later, despite many flaws in the system and many people trying to attack this, it remains the bleeding edge of what liberty is. And I truly believe that. And I think most immigrants who come to America truly believe that, because that's why they wanted to come to America. That's the thing. I know there were all these shows, West Wing, and there was another about a TV network by this guy Aaron Sorkin, and there was this wonderful speech with an actor. I can't remember who it was. Was it? Wasn't Jeff Bridges? It was some very refined actor talking about how he doesn't believe America is the greatest nation in the world anymore. But here's the thing: I hate Americans who say shit like that, because it's like, I'm sorry, America is still the greatest nation in the world, because for all its flaws and for all the ways it falls short of what the promise of America is, at the end of the day, that is the foundation of what America represents: the right to individual freedom, the right to self responsibility. It's a nation of ungovernables who govern by, wanting to be good people. And I think that's one of the things I love about America is I get exposed to so many people from so many different backgrounds, so many different groups. I mean, I mentioned how many different types of immigrants come to America who are my neighbors and my friends. But then even within America, you have different groups that are kind of very separate identities: Jewish Americans, African Americans, um, right down to Italian Americans. Like, it's all a melting pot, but they're almost like it's a melting pot, except it's also a place where people take these identities very seriously. But the thing I've discovered in America is that everyone who comes here and everyone who's born here, I think fundamentally believe in truly, truly good things, truly good values. And part of those values are just, we're a melting pot, we're a frontier. And that means people from all over the world can come here. And for the most part, with some very notable exceptions, Americans are really accepting of people from anywhere, because, you know, there is not a single person living in America who doesn't have some kind of immigrant story in their families' archives. And the other thing about America is just this idea of personal responsibility, and you are in charge of your own destiny, and you can be anything you want to be. And sometimes I think living in America, especially right now, it might not seem like that particular dream, that particular ideal is real, but I truly believe it is. I think this is one of the magical things about America. Um, there's a picture I remember a few years, well, yeah, 10, 15 years ago, I don't know, of Obama fist bumping the janitor in the White House. And I like that because, in my experience in America, you could meet someone who is a janitor or a bartender or a CEO, but if you both sat at a bar having a beer, there's no intrinsic sense of like inferiority and superiority. It's like you come to America and you work hard and you take pride in what you do. And yeah, maybe if you're a janitor, you're not earning as much as a CEO, but as a janitor, if you don't feel you're working less harder than that CEO, you don't feel that you're somehow inferior to that CEO. Whereas I think in the UK, there is this really weird class structure that exists with working class and middle class and upper class, and it's like the middle class look down on the working class, and the working class have a chip on their shoulder with the middle class. And class is something that really does exist in England in a way that I think maybe people who don't live in Britain don't understand. But in America, my experience is it is just such a classless place. And classless, that sounds so bad. It's like it's a place with no class, but it's like, again, that's one of the other things about America. It's class is such an important thing, and rules and stuff. Whereas in America, people live their own lives and are their own people and make their own identities. And there's something magical about that. I love America because I came here and I felt like I had the opportunity to truly be who not just I was, but also who I had the potential to be. I had the freedom to find out who I was and live the best version of myself and become the best version of myself that I could. And maybe it's all psychosomatic, and maybe I could have done that in the United Kingdom, but I don't believe so. I think I had to come to America to be the best version of myself. And I think everybody who comes to America appreciates something that people who are born in America don't, which is that this is the best place in the entire world to come and be the best version of yourself. Because it is. It just, I don't know. I love this country. I really do. There has not been a single day in the 21 years or something since I first came here in which I have ever regretted making my life in America. It's not always been easy, and I have had good times and I've had hard times. But the thing I love about America is whatever happens, how many punches in the face you take, I always feel that even if I had nothing, America is a land in which you could piece together enough to make something. It really is. This is a country where, yeah, anyone can do anything if you believe it, and you believe it hard enough. And there are so many amazing, inspiring examples of people who have done that. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a great example. You know, it's a guy from Austria with a funny accent and a weird body, and they said you'd never be a movie star, and then he's become the greatest movie star of all time. He'll never make it in politics, becomes governor of the world's 7th biggest economy. I mean, yeah, there are so many immigrants who have done so many incredible things in America, and the reason they were able to do that is because America gave them that opportunity. It truly is a wonderful country to live in, and not a day goes by in which I am not appreciative of that fact. Truly love America, and I'm truly blessed to live here. And I think more than that, I'm truly blessed to have lived somewhere else first, so I can appreciate America in a way Americans don't. And I love Americans. I think Americans are very, very good people. But that's one thing, I almost pity them. I almost pity Americans who've never, who haven't had the opportunity to come here and live an immigrant story. So, I don't know. That sounds pretty pretentious. That sounds almost like, I don't know. Hopefully no one will take offense at that. But yeah, America is a wonderful country. And Americans, you know what, really appreciate it. God, you could think of all the other places in the world you could be living right now. No. Cecil Rhodes once said that to be born an Englishman is to have won first prize in the lottery of life. But I think to have been born an American, or to have been born with the opportunity to come to America, you have won a lottery in life. So appreciate it and make the most of it. And that's all I'll say on the subject. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up or a like or something. If you just want me to shut up and make videos about James Bond, give me a comment down below. And I'll be back very soon with another video. So until then, cheerio. I'm Roland Hume. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got a link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.